We are live. Hello, hello. Welcome back to another episode of Coach's Corner Health. I'm one of your co hosts, Leslie Godette. Wow, I cannot believe that a couple of weeks has gone by. We've been off. Actually, I guess this is 3 weeks later, and we've been off. I'm kind of
Yep.
beside myself trying to figure out how to do this again. But I'm happy to be back. For those of you who've been following us for a while, you know who I am. But for anyone who's new, I am Leslie Gadat. I'm a mindset and emotional awareness coach for women who are on a mission to make a bigger impact in the world. They strive to adopt a both and rather than an either or mindset by doing what they love and pursuing what they are passionate about. And I show them that when they develop just some really good, simple strategy mindset skills, learning how to also manage their emotions, they will protect their time and get more done more efficiently and with less stress. Andy.
Yay! Less stress is a good thing.
Yes, it sure
Hello,
is.
everybody. I'm Andy Lidstone. I'm the unconditional coach. I work mostly around boundaries. I help people figure out what boundaries are, figure out how to set boundaries, and when they might need barriers instead of boundaries. Yeah, that's what I've been working on, and it's powerful work. And it was kind of the initiation for this conversation right here. We were talking about what people want, and the first step that I help people do in setting up boundaries is helping them figure out what they want first. And a lot of people struggle with this. A lot of people don't know how to figure out what they want. The best a lot of people can come up with, now I'm not necessarily going to say most, but a lot of people, the best they can come up with is vague terms like I want happiness, or I want love, or I want a satisfying career, or something like that. They can't really come up with, a lot of people can't come up with specific details, and that kind of inspired me to uh, you know suggest we do this topic for today's show. And it's it's an interesting conversation. I'm looking forward to the wisdom that we pull out of each other every time we talk. I love our conversations. So
Yeah, me too.
yeah.
Yeah, I think this is probably the hardest question to answer because it's easy, super easy to know what you don't want. Because when you don't like certain things, you don't want certain things to happen in your life. You know that instinctually, and it's probably the easiest list you'll be ever able to create. But when it comes to really like honing in on what you want, and especially what you really, really want, it becomes really super hard. And I'm not really sure why that is. Like what makes knowing what we want so hard? Like I don't know. I don't really know what the really true answer behind that is, other than just my own perspective, me being that there's so much negativity in the world. We focus on so much negative that I think people automatically go to the negative, what they don't want to happen, because that's really a lot of what, as in life, we focus on what's negative, that's going wrong, and that has takes away our focus for what's going right, what's possible, what could go right if I
Yeah.
actually decided that I wanted something, and what that could possibly look like. And I think that is where a lot of people struggle. I know myself included. I had struggled when, and then when I finally realized that the best place to start was to really get out of my head the things that I didn't want. It really opens me up to like being able to focus on, okay, well, if I don't want that, then what do I want? Because that was a place to start.
Right. Right. And you said a few things there, and I want to address the first one, the first big one. We people, humanity, all people, focus on the negative, and that's kind of supposed to happen. Our brains are designed to keep us from danger. Like, it is really just how genetically we are, like human beings, actually virtually all living creatures are designed to stay away from danger. That's the biggest purpose of our brain, is to protect us from danger. So it's reasonable that would be easier for us to focus on than seeing the good. However, we if we ignore all the good things, all the possibilities, all the options, and I like how you put it, possibilities, because if we ignore the possibilities, if we only look at the dangers, if we only look at the possible bad outcomes, then we only ever get the negative outcomes. And even if we get the good ones, we don't notice it, or we don't pay enough attention to it for it to really sink in and have a positive impact. Um, I had a client that was going through this, recently, where she said, I'm really getting an experience different than what most people in this situation get. That is better than what most people in this situation get. She said, yet until I was talking to you, I really didn't much notice it, because it wasn't what I was focusing on. So that's important too. And also, that's why it's easier to get down what you don't want. Um, and then a lot of people, when they figure out what they don't want, they just create a list of what they do want that is the opposite of what they don't want. And the other thing that I noticed while you were talking, that I remembered while you were talking, is a lot of the people that I've talked with, and I'm sure you've had a similar experience at least some of the time with your clients, is that when they talk about what they don't want, or even what they do want, some people can get into what they want, but it's emotional. It's emotions they want. It's feelings they want. It's not specific details. Um, I want to feel loved, or I want to not be alone, or I want happiness, or, I want the same thing everybody else wants: 2.4 kids and a picket fence, right? They want the American dream, or whatever the thing is that they call it. Like, they just want this idea. There isn't a specific detail, although I just said 2.4 kids and a picket fence. That's much more of a concept than actual details. I mean, specifically because it's really difficult to have 2.4 kids. That's difficult. The picket fence, that's easier, but the 2.4 kids is hard. Um, it's we have a difficult time nailing down what we want, or even what we don't want, because those details are not something that we want with our brain. It's something we want with our heart. And the problem comes in when we're trying to get those things, when we're trying to set goals, or trying to put up boundaries, or trying to communicate with people, or like any part of the life that we're trying to participate in that requires our brain, like the thinking part of our brain. It doesn't understand how to achieve emotions. It just knows how to achieve things. It doesn't know how to ask for emotions. Would you please make me happier? Sure. How do I do that? Can you help me feel more loved? What does that look like? Right? Like, there aren't things that our brain understands how to do. So that's the hard part for a lot of people, for a lot of us, and it was for me too. It took me a long time to actually articulate specific things that I wanted. And for some strange reason, that's my sarcasm for a moment, for some strange reason, I didn't know, I wasn't getting what I wanted until I was specific about it. And that's the problem, is a lot of us don't really know the specific details of what we want. So why is that hard? Well, one, because we focus on the bad parts, and two, because it's emotional. So what does that look like? Like, how do we focus on our emotions? Why do we focus on our emotions? Why do we focus on our feelings all the time instead of just the details of what we want? What do you think? Why do we focus on our emotions more than the details?
Yeah. So first, one of the things that, and you're right, I think a lot of the time people, when they're not really, I don't know if it's they're not fully into the self development world, or they're just kind of getting into it and they're going through the process of figuring out what they want. you are right. There is this general um, general, I guess, idea to take what I don't want and flip it into what I do want. But there's that piece in the center, which you just hit on, which is the emotional piece, which most people miss. And that is because they don't go deep enough. And that is why, when I go through with my clients, especially, it's in the beginning. Mindset work starts with the what I don't want, the what I do want. But it goes into a deeper level, which is I help guide them into that emotional connection to it,
Yep.
because the emotional connection is usually what's going to help someone stay the course, create habits to get what they want. But if there's no emotional connection to it, it's like saying, well, you know what, I want ice cream today. But if I don't have it, I'm not going to like lose my mind over it. But there are days, as an example, I have a craving that I have to have like something, and I actually go out of my way to get that something, so I can what I like to say as kill the craving.
Yep.
And so I think there's just that, it becomes that sensory for me, like as I was saying, for like having an ice cream, when it becomes a craving, right? Whereas someone wants something opposite to what they don't want, until that emotional connection has been, they actually tap into it. They just switching it from what they don't want to what they do want, they haven't gone deep enough. So again, I think it's like going those extra steps to say, okay, well, I know you don't want this, but I also go into it in more detail about why don't you want this, because there has to be an emotional connection to that as well, so that when they create the what I do want and the emotional connection, and we can tap into that, it can create that desire that they've been looking for to really stay the course. So I think it is the emotional piece, I believe, is what creates that desire, what creates the willingness to show up and do the things to necessary to get that which you desire most, like what you want. And because you have the emotional connection to it, you're going to be more, you're going to design your brain in a way where you're going to start looking for ways to achieve it, to get it, to have it. So that's why I think the emotional piece is, I think, not only is that it's part of it, but I think it's an essential piece, so that we can actually hone in on really getting it. Because again, you can just say, well, people can say, well, I want $1 million. But if there's no real emotional connection to that money, and you don't have a reason for it, then saying you want $1 million is just saying I want $1 million. But if you say I want to make $1 million because I want to have like this amazing animal sanctuary somewhere where I'm going to have all of this set up a certain way so I can start saving animals, and you have this whole process, there's a connection to that. So
Yeah.
you're going to go after that desire. So that's kind of like how I look at it.
Yeah. 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 And I love that, because um, that is the emotional connection that connects us to what we're looking for. And I think I think they go hand in hand. I think the emotions of what I want is important when we have details to put it to. So, for example, I want to save animals is useless without how do you want to save animals? Like, I want $1 million so that I can set up this animal sanctuary and set up this and do this and do this and do this, not specific details. Now, there's emotions set to the thing you want, but there's also a thing you want set to your emotions, right? And that's where a lot of my clients come from. They want the emotion, but they don't know how to achieve that, right? A lot of the people that I talk to are, yeah, I want to save animals. Yeah, I want to be respected. Yeah, I want to stop being used or taken advantage of. Well, what does that look like? Like, how does somebody stop disrespecting you? Well, you're disrespecting me right now. Well, how am I doing that? Because you don't know what I mean. Okay, how am I supposed to know when I know what you mean? right? What is the specific details of what it looks like to achieve what you're asking for? So the emotions tie the details to you, to something that means something to you. Because like you said, I can say that I want somebody to um, I want my partner to get up with me every morning, even though they don't have to get up. I want them to get up with me so they can see me off to work every morning, even though they don't have to get up till 2 hours later. Well, why? Because you don't want them sleeping in? Because you want to punish them? Because you feel jealous that they get to sleep in and you don't? Or is it because you want to say goodbye to them? You want that connection in the morning because you just like a good morning kiss when you go to work in the morning. Like, what's the reason? Because I promise you, the reason changes the results. Right? What is the specific thing? If you just want something but there's no emotion attached to it, it's useless to want it. If you have an emotion but you don't have a thing attached to it, you're not going to achieve that emotion. You're not going to get what you want, or you're not going to avoid getting what you don't want. So both details are important. It's knowing both details is why we don't get what we want, why it's so hard for us to articulate what we want, because there's two pieces to it.
Mm-hmm.
So great, I want to feel respected. Great, I want $1 million. Great, I want my house on the corner, or great, I want a wife who will stay with me forever. Sure. Why? What does it matter? What's the point?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what everybody else has. That's not going to get you, and that's not going to help you get it. Because they don't pass out wives who love you forever at the street corner. It's not something you can go to the market and buy. Trust me, lots of men wish you could.
I love that. Yeah. It's funny that you say that, especially too. One of the things is my husband had been getting up really super early. Now things are a little bit more normal for him, normalized, I should say, where he's getting up a little bit later, which helps him to feel more rested. But, he was getting up 3:30 in the morning to go to work, and I would make sure he would be leaving by 5 o'clock. So he gave himself like a little ample time to kind of wake up, all of the
Yeah,
morning routine. And by 5 o'clock, I was awake, and I didn't have to get up. I don't have to get up early because I work from home. I can set my hours,
yeah,
but I chose to get up every morning so I could see him off to work, because I did want that connection. I felt a connection to him to say, I value you, to say goodbye to you in the morning as you go off to start your day. I want to be able to show him that. That's my way of doing, like, kind of like showing how I feel. And so I think when you were saying, like, I love how you brought that, tied it in, because with relationships, a lot of people say, well, I want to be respected. I want to be happy, but they don't really say, like, well, when you ask them what will make me happy, they'll say, well, if I had more money, or if I had this, or if I had that. It's really about, okay, but why? And I think that's where why is actually very powerful to know. Why do you want these things? Because then you can say, well, I want a loving relationship. I want to feel respected so that I can go through life with someone and share experiences, and create these lifelong memories. I mean, that's a deeper why than just saying, I want to have somebody in my life, you
yeah,
know? Um,
exactly.
and I think that's how, like, with why I think a lot of people find it very hard to do it on their own, and why I truly, in this instance, will say this, that I truly believe that it is really going to benefit you to hire someone to help you go through this process. And
Yes.
even if it's only a few sessions that whether you go whoever you do work with, even if it was only for a few sessions, or you go through a program, it will benefit you a lot to actually have someone who's gone through the process, who knows how to move you through and help ask and be that person who knows to ask questions, to prompt you, to go deeper, to get that emotional connection so you can decide what you want and know it and be, with conviction be able to decide this is what I want, this is why I want it, and this is how I'm going to achieve it.
Yeah.
That I think is obtained through really going through with a coach, someone who knows how to take you through it. And
Yeah.
that's really why I believe in coaching, because that to me is a powerful way to actually get there quicker instead of like trying to figure it out. And especially if you found habitually that in your relationships they end for you because something happens, as you are very much into like the relational part of like with habits, or with, I should say, boundaries and barriers. And some people treat boundaries as barriers. They don't understand that. And so they have these habits and they continuously go through relationships, not understanding that it would be easier for them in life if they actually hired you to
Yeah.
help them understand this is who you are. This is how you've been navigating your relationships. If you took a closer look and did X, Y, and Z for you matches who you are, you probably be a lot happier and find those relationships that you're looking for, have those deeper bonds. But I think it's really hard to do it on your own. And I know that, we both know that.
Right.
Um, and,
Yes.
uh, and it still is an everyday, process. You're still thinking, you're still in the
Yeah.
doing of, to keep yourself motivated to like go, not so much go out of your way, but to make your relationships important, prioritized, and being your best self so that you have the things that you want by providing it to others. Because
Yeah.
one of the things that I talk about is self-love, and I truly believe that when you know how to love yourself, you're teaching others how to love you, but it
Yeah.
also teaches you how to really love other people as well.
Yes. Yeah. Self-love teaches us how we experience love, and therefore how to ask for it from other people, and what our best ways of showing it are.
Hmm.
Yes. And to getting what we want, another way to illustrate the the options, like the different ways, because uh, the topic of today is, why is it so hard? What makes it hard to know what we want? And we've both of us brought forward two sides of the same coin. What I brought forward is because people have emotions that they don't connect a thing to, like what they want to. They just have an emotional event they're looking for. And you brought forward people wanting the event, but they don't have a why. They don't have an emotional connection to it. So another example of how to get support is, if you're struggling to know what it is you want, and you just know you have a feeling, you have an emotion, then you come to me and I'll help you figure out what it is you want. If you know you have the emotion, or if you have the thing you want, but you don't know why, you can't, you haven't been able to figure out how to make an attachment to that thing, then you go to Leslie and she figures out how to make an attachment to that thing. Like that's the different skill sets we have. Now, of course, both of us cross over both skills, and all the clients we have, or many of the clients we have, need both, so we can do both things. But that's an example of how to find the support you're looking for based on what you want, based on what it is you're specifically looking for. Not everybody's looking for the same thing. Not and although kind of we know because we've been told everybody's different, but I'm still surprised every day how much people treat everybody around them like they should think the same way they do. You know, how people get upset on a daily basis because other people don't think and act the way they do. And they just think that everybody should act that way or think that way. And so this is another way to illustrate that we are all individuals. Here, Leslie and I are here creating a channel for, like, creating content, creating videos for you guys to help you guys for a year and a half now. And yet there's still things that we do that, although we complement each other, they're not the same things. You know, we could, as a matter of fact, we could have a client that goes to both of us and gets different things from each of us and gets completely different things from each of us. So this is how you learn what you want. This is how you figure out what you want. You go to somebody, your friend, your mom, you ask for help. They give you what they can, and whatever they can't give you, you go to somebody else. Okay, I got this little bit of help from my friend or from my mom. And you go to somebody else. And then you go to your counselor or your doctor or somebody, and then you come to a coach, and then you come to, back to your friend or your mom again. Like, that's how you get what you want. You just try things out until you figure out a little bit more about what it is you want. And as you're going through these different ways of finding out, you're also finding out the things that work. Maybe my mom can't tell me what I want. Maybe all my mom can do is boss me around. Or maybe my mom helps really well, but my best friend, he doesn't really get it, or she doesn't really get it. She gets me. We have fun together, and we do great things together. But as far as figuring out what I want, they actually don't know how to tell me to do that. They just know how to tell me what they want. So that's another way to figure out what you want and what you don't want, is to ask for support from people, ask for help from people, and see what they give you. Another good way to find out what you don't want is to look at the experiences you've had in your life, the jobs, the relationships, the friendships, the things that you've done. Find out the things you liked and the things you didn't like. These adventuring people, these people that these high energy adventuring type people who like to go and do all kinds of extreme activities. There's plenty of things they don't like to do, but they try lots of them, and they know they have a big list of things they don't like to do because they probably tried them, right? And that's how they figured out what they want. So why is it hard? 2 reasons. Because you have to touch your emotions, and some of us don't want to do that. And because you have to have specific details, and some of us don't know what those are. It's hard. What makes it hard? Emotions makes it hard. Specific makes it hard. If you really do want to figure out what you want, those are the places you're going to find them. Look in your emotions and look for the details of what you've had or didn't have. When I grew up, I didn't have nearly enough ice cream. So guess what I always have in the fridge now? To use your example from earlier.
I love it. No, but that's great. And it's true because, and I think too, we don't really discuss these things. Like, we kind of discuss what we want on the surface level growing up. Like,
Yes.
what do you want to be when you grow up? What do you want to do when you grow up? And it's really more based around the person who's raising you obviously wants to make sure that you're okay. So they want to make sure that you're thinking about how you can take care of you, because they're not going to be taking care of you for your entire life. And they know you're going to step outside their doors one day, be on your own and do your own thing. And that, in essence, now they no longer have you in the safety of their 4 walls, watching over you, taking care of you. And so they're not responsible for your wants and needs like they used to be. So I think a lot of that on the surface levels is coming from a place of survival, because they want to make sure you're going to be okay,
Yeah, you're going to be okay.
which is understandable. And you might even still get the question of, so what are you doing? Are you still at this job? Are you still with so and so? Are you still living here? Are you still doing things that I knew about when we saw each other, or we last talked?
Yeah.
And that's understandable as well, because as human beings, we our main real thing is to survive, right?
Yeah.
So that's just a common thing. People are going to ask you what you're doing, where you're living, who you're with. They want to know that you are okay, that you're surviving, that you are
Yeah.
living.
Yeah.
And it's not so much that they're going to come out saying, hey, are you surviving? They're not going to say that. It's going to come out through these series of questions.
Yeah. We don't even
So
think to ask that.
we don't. But I know that, like here in Atlantic Canada, one of the main questions that would get asked a lot, especially of my husband, because we have been living or going from place to place, living around the states and Canada, and of course Mexico. And it was always the question was, how is he doing? Does he have is he working? What's he doing? They always knew that I worked from home, but it was always to make sure that he was surviving. That was just really kind of the way of the question meant, is he surviving? And it's so funny that when we think about it from that perspective, but that's in essence what we're asking each other when we
Yeah.
ask these questions. So yeah, I mean, I just thought that was kind of, it just came to me as I was thinking
Yeah.
about how do we determine what we want as we're growing up with our families. We don't necessarily talk about like what are your hopes and dreams, and like getting to the root of what that really means for you. Are you going to go out and start, like, if no one would ever sit down with you, at least not in my generation, if I said, well, I want to have a sanctuary for animals, that would have been, oh, that's so sweet and that's great. But in reality, when I got to the age of finishing high school, going out into the world, what are you going to pursue as your choice of work so
Right.
that you survive is actually the last words that would go at the
Yeah.
end of that sentence, right? So yeah, it was just
Yeah.
kind of interesting for me.
Yeah. Yeah. And that is as parents, as families, when we're asking, I got two or three clients who are in their 30s, 40s, and even 50s, whose parents still call them up on a daily, weekly, or monthly basis. And are you okay? Are you alive? What are you doing for work these days? And that's what they're trying to say is, do I still have to worry about you?
Mm-hmm.
And one client is on permanent medical disability. So his parents, when they call him up, they're literally asking, are you surviving? Are you still alive? Do we need to come rescue you? Because he does have problems, you know, providing for himself. Um, so this is legitimate questions, and part of what we want is to know that those we care about can provide for themselves, right? Part of what we want is to know that they can provide for themselves. But again, it's not enough for them to say, yeah, I can provide for myself. Yeah, I'm doing okay. It's not enough. We want to know the details. We want to know the details so that I can feel safe. I can feel that you're safe. I can feel that you're thriving, that you're surviving, that you're doing okay. I don't want you just to say, yeah, everything's okay, because that sounds like you're brushing me off.
Mm-hmm.
I want to know the details. I want the details to attach to the emotion, and I want the emotions to attach to the details. If you just tell me, yeah, job's good, family's good, yeah, I'm going golfing on the weekends, yeah, things are good. Your family's gonna go, and why does that matter? Like, what's actually going on? Like, how's your marriage? How are your kids? Like, it isn't just, we don't just ask, do you have a job? We do ask, how's the wife and kids? We do ask, how's the job? Because we are asking also, are you happy? We're asking, are you surviving? Are you thriving? But we're also asking, are you happy? Are you feeling loved? Are you satisfied? Are you fulfilled? So this is part of where our wants come from, where we have a difficulty knowing what it is we want, because like you said a minute ago, nobody sits us down when we're kids and goes, so what specifically about an animal sanctuary do you want? Why an animal sanctuary? What animals? Where do you want to put it? How would you pay for it? How would you make money doing it? Nobody sits us down and asks about the details. The best we'll get from most people, oh, you want an animal sanctuary? Well, you better go to veterinary school because you got to learn how to be a vet first. Well, no, I don't want to be a vet. I just want to look after animals. I'll probably hire a vet, right? So they try and take our dreams and turn them into a job.
Mm-hmm.
They don't just let us have our dreams. So that's another reason that we have a hard time knowing what we want, is because we've been told from when we're little that what we want, if it doesn't translate directly into a job, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Right?
And that's, I think, comes from not, I think most of the time it's not from malice. It's really actually
No.
coming from that survival
Yeah.
frame of mind, right? They want you to be okay. They don't
Yeah.
want to worry about you. So if you say you want to do this type of job that maybe they really don't have an understanding of, they're going to push back saying, well, are you sure? Like, is this what you want to do? Because as an example, I have a nephew who's a musician. He's very successful. But when he was, talking with his parents about doing, going into it full time, they said to him, make sure you have something to fall back on,
Mm-hmm.
meaning they wanted him to prepare
Yes.
if there was, if it just didn't work out the way he had hoped it would, because it's a competitive industry.
Mm-hmm.
Now, they didn't say, no, we don't support you, and no, there's no way in hell you're ever going to do this, and that you'll never succeed. No, it was, we support you. We want you to do well, but we also want you to be able to, in essence, survive if you had
Yes.
to, right? And so, but he was able, fortunately, to make a go of what he's doing and doing quite well for himself. But again, that it just comes down to having parents who are willing to go that little extra step and say, okay, I'm scared about this decision that you're making of something that you want that I'm not sure if it's going to happen, because we typically only hear about people saying, oh, you want to be a doctor or a lawyer, you want to be a tradesman of some sort, because those jobs are going to provide a good living for you. But they don't really, we don't really focus on those other jobs that, or other avenues that really can provide a living for us, that we're passionate about. We have more fear around them because there's that uncertainty of, there's so many people in the field, in the pool, so to speak, and only a certain amount really are making it. And so that's where the fear comes in. But there are parents out there who are actually saying, okay, look, this is what you're going to do. Let's talk about it. What does that look like? I was really fortunate to find out that my brother and his wife did have this conversation. Like, what does this look like to you? Where do you see this going? How do you plan on making this happen? So they actually helped him have formulate a plan, which to me was amazing because I had no idea, but it was really
Right.
good to know. But are all families like that? I don't know. I don't think so. Maybe now today they are. Maybe the generations, couple generations away. Maybe the just a couple years younger. Maybe it's five years younger. Maybe it's 10 years younger. The new generations coming in and learning about, hey, this is what I saw, what I experienced. I want to change things up. Again, this could be that, changing the culture like we've talked about before.
Yeah. 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 And I think there is something to that. I think that is what's happening. Um, I think more and more families are realizing that some of these other options are viable options. The other part of the equation too is, another reason why it's hard to know what we want is because sometimes the job feels just as impossible as the art.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I can go to college or university to become a doctor, and I'll still have a 1 in 1,000 chance of actually becoming a doctor, getting
Mm-hmm.
hired on at a hospital or getting hired at a medical facility of some sort. Whereas I might have 1 in 1,000 chance to go start a rock band. Right? It sometimes getting the job that we want feels just as impossible or just as unlikely as doing the thing that people said you can't make a living doing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think more and more generations are realizing that. I think more and more people are growing up realizing that, yeah, actually getting a job, getting a specific career, and aiming for that career and getting that career is just as unlikely as going off on your own and doing the thing you dreamed about when you were a kid.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I don't think it's quite as unlikely, but it's not as guaranteed as people promise us it is. Like, I went through a lot of my life trying to figure out how to become one of these careers, and I went through a bunch of different careers and figured out I hated them all until I landed on, like, I'm just going to go do the rock band thing. Except for me, it was become a life coach. I gave up on the jobs and I just went all in at becoming a life coach.
Mm-hmm.
It's running my own business, it's running my own online business, it's doing calls all hours of the day and night. I was on a call with a client for 4.5 hours last night till 2:30 in the morning,
Mm-hmm.
and I love it. But and this is again the rock band lifestyle. Rock bands do like 10 o'clock at night till 2:30 in the morning, right? That's
Mm-hmm.
but if I would have told my parents that I'm just going to go be a life coach, they would have laughed at me harder than they would have if I had just said I want to be in a rock band, because it's just not something people encourage their children to do. And this is, I think, like you said, I think something that's changing is because people are realizing that kids can be whatever they want to be. I think somebody said, I think I saw a survey one time a couple of years ago that said that most boys nowadays, almost all boys nowadays, want to be YouTubers. That's
Mm-hmm.
their dream career when they grow up. They want to be YouTubers. Um, it's not as big of a percentage, but most girls want to be influencers. They want to be like Instagram stars or TikTok stars or whatever the thing is. That's what they want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And who's to say they can't? Like, because we're parents, because we parents don't see the financial gain in that, does that mean they can't? I mean, tell that to Ozzy Osbourne or Garth Brooks, right? Like, tell them
Mm-hmm.
that they couldn't make money as a musician. Tell them they couldn't make money on media, doing whatever they wanted, right? Um, Funny enough, they're still most of the movie stars and most of the rock stars are still trying to get their kids to go to university too. They're like, we
Mm-hmm.
know what it's like in this industry. Don't do this.
But yeah, again, and isn't that strange? Because I think like there's a certainty when it's your dream,
Yes.
right? But when it's someone else's dream that you can't wrap your head around because it's not yours, that that it's not the cookie cutter, these are all the jobs that make sense that everyone has been getting on board with for a long time, this is what you should do. And then you've got this other percentage of these are the like rock star or like musician, dancer to actor, whatever those other ones are. And they're like, oh, okay, I know you can make money here because this is what I know. This has been a proven method. I know this proven method because they talk about it all the time. This is what people talk about. Over here, it's like all I hear, and most of the time you'll hear, is that, oh, you can't it's so hard to become a musician established, it's so hard to be established actor, it's so hard to be, like in dancing. And when I say a dancer, I'm talking about whether it's ballet, whether it's the dancers that do music videos for people where they're like the ones that are doing the choreography, or whether it's for whatever thing that they're
Yeah.
doing it for. um, I know that most people, when they look at those jobs, it's like they have this stigma that they put on it, like, oh, that's a kind of like a dream, but this is reality over here.
Yeah.
So I know I've been telling you your whole life you can do whatever you want, you can be whoever you want, and the world is yours. Whatever you decide to do, I support you. But then when reality comes, parents, and I think even teachers, this is just how we as a society have been going through life. Okay, now we got to like really get them ready. What are you going to do? Here,
Mhm.
I've got these choices for you. Oh, you want that's just a kind of a dream. Let's really get serious. Come on, get your head out of the clouds. This is what you need to start looking at. Let's get serious because no one's seeing it, but I call it one of the secret words or the secret words in our head. We want you to survive. So we're going to steer you towards things that we know are proven methods for you to go out into the world and you're going to survive. I won't have to
Yeah.
worry that I didn't set you up for success. And that's
Right.
really, I think, where it's coming from.
Yes. I agree completely. It's coming from setting them up from success. And again, it's because of our perception of what works and what doesn't. Like you said,
Mm-hmm.
we hear about these actors and musicians and artists of all shapes and sizes, writers and painters. And I just heard a story the other day about the painter who painted a portrait of the Queen, because of course she
Mm-hmm.
just passed away.
Mm-hmm.
A portrait of the Queen for the Canadian Parliament for her 50th, whatever they called it, the Jubilee or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
in 20, what is it? Or yeah, it was 2012, I think he painted it for, something like that. So they interviewed that particular artist, and he's now like, he's older than the Queen is. Or no, he's not
Mm-hmm.
older than the Queen is. He's older than her reign has been because he was old enough to. Um, he was just a year or two old when she became queen. So
Mm-hmm.
he's not as old as she is, but he's as old as her reign is, as she was queen.
Mm-hmm.
And so but he's made a living painting pictures, painting portraits, painting people. And who would have told him when he was younger he could do that, right? Um, this is the deal. We don't tell people they can do that because we don't see the success stories. We see a lot of people getting into those industries, and we see a lot of people
Mm-hmm.
flunking out of them, not making any money.
Right.
But we see that because we tell our kids they can't do it, so kids don't try as hard. When we tell our
Yep.
kids we tell our kids they can be doctors, and they're willing to go to 8 or 9 years of university to do that, even though it takes 8 or 9 years of university. It doesn't
Yep.
take that long to become a painter, to become an actor, to become a life coach, right? It takes practice. It doesn't. It takes a lot more than practice to become a doctor or a lawyer. But for a lot of these other things, it simply takes practice.
Mm-hmm.
So the how to figure out what we want, why it's so hard, is because we're told our dreams aren't worth it. We're told to do practical. Our dreams aren't worth it. Now, again, like you said, we're told those things for good reasons. Our families want us to survive, to be able to handle it, to be able to live life. Because who's going to support us while we go off and practice being a musician? Who's going to support
Exactly.
us while we practice being an actor or an artist? Who's going to support us while we practice doing that? Right? And that's the thing that they want to make sure of, is that, I don't want to be supporting you until you're 40 while you practice being an artist. Well, great. So I'll go find somebody that does. Right?
Yeah.
And that's the deal, is it's just hard to really say what we want, because from a young age we've been told you can be anything you want unless it's a dream,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so we grow up thinking, yay, I can do anything as long as it's practical.
But we're not told about it until it's when we're at that stage in life where
Yes.
we have to make a decision. And I think that if just as a society we started saying, okay, like, we talked about earlier in the show, why can we not just have this become commonplace, even if it was in school? Like, I remember, I think it was social studies, grade 7, and we talked about what the world could look like, what our dreams of what the world could be. Why couldn't we have some kind of, discussion thing like that for kids going through school? Okay, what is it that you want to do? Why is it you want to do that? If you were to do that, here's a project for you. Here's part of your, this is homework. It's a project for you. Create your roadmap to getting what you want. Gets them thinking. Let's start now, because, you know, kids aren't thinking like, oh, bigger picture. They're just thinking, I want that. but they don't know the how or why or how to get that. They just know I want that. They're passionate about something, but are they truly passionate? Because no one's going to the deeper level why with it. They don't really have, again, they have some kind of emotional connection to it, which is mostly, I think, joy
Yeah.
because they like it. But I
Joy
don't
or
think there's,
fear, depending on their
or
lifestyle.
fear, but I don't think it's really that level of commitment emotion where it's like, I'm going to do anything I can to make this happen, you know?
Yeah.
So, how do we get that? We need to start, I think, younger and allow kids to actually not only be able to be told, yes, you can do what you want, but then have that next level conversation. What do you want? Oh, okay. Why do you want that? Have you looked at what are all the things that you think it's going to take for you to achieve that? Well, let's take a closer look at that. And then have them really start fleshing it out because you never know. They might say, yeah, you know what? I don't really want that. But right now it sounds good. It sounds cool. Like you were saying, a bunch of kids want to, young men, they want to be YouTubers. It sounds cool, but there's a lot to go that goes into it.
Yeah.
If you want to be successful YouTuber,
Yeah.
you know, we have a YouTube channel. We are growing our following, but you know, there are other people out there who want success right out the gate, and they don't want to be at a year and a half without having 1 million followers. They want to have a
Right.
100,000 in a couple of months, 3 months.
Right.
So again, it's taking that idea, getting them to have that emotional connection to it. Do you realize all of the things that you're going to have to do that will be in obvious, and hopefully they're in alignment with you and you're still passionate about it in order for you to get there, because now you're going to be starting to thinking about your roadmap. That I think that's going to help a lot of young people who are already changing the world today and how we think about things and how we go about things, and in the age of technology and where it's going. So if you have that dream and you want something more, I think it's really a good thing for us to just start having those conversations, saying, okay, well, let's talk about the roadmap. That'll help
Yeah.
you with the what. But for people like you and I who are now looking back saying, you know what, I don't like how that's been. I want change now. So what does change look like for me? A lot of people in our situation, even maybe some of the clients that you said are in their 30s and 40s as well, they are at that place where, okay, I know what I don't want and I know I want change, but I have no clue
Mhm.
because they didn't grow up in the era of life coaching being like mainstream,
Right.
right? And the most younger people are. So now they're getting the benefit of that. So how do we help people transition from, yeah, I had this life no longer serves me. I want change. Now what? I mean, that's, I think, the question. How do we
Yeah.
get them to go there?
Yeah. And again, like we've said through most of this show, I think the key is to figure out, do you have the emotional connection first? Like, do you have an emotion you're trying to achieve? I want happiness, I want joy, I want respect, whatever. Or do you have a thing you want that that you haven't committed to? Because as we've discussed already, we need both the emotional commitment to the thing. We need the deeper emotional, the why, like what's going to drive you to get this when
Mhm.
things get in your way. When your friends and family say, "Yeah, that's a dumb idea," what's going to keep you going? When roadblocks come up and say, "Yeah, this is going to be a little bit more expensive than you thought, maybe a lot more expensive than you thought, or maybe this is going to take a lot longer than you thought," what's going to keep you going? What's that deeper emotional connection that's going to keep you going when those roadblocks come up? And say you know what the deeper emotional connection is, but do you know what it's for? Like, do you know what you're actually trying to achieve? So you need to have the details and you need to have the deeper emotional connection. So
Mhm.
whichever one you're trying, whichever one you have, find the other one. Look for the other one. And if you don't have any ideas, invent something. I want to save the animals. Great. I don't know how I want to save the animals. I don't know what that's going to look like yet. Great. Try some stuff. Buy a dog. See how that works out. Okay, I bought a dog. I have a dog for 2 years. I hate dogs. It ain't dogs I want to save. Okay, great. Buy a cat. Try the same thing. Okay, buy a bird. Buy a snake. You know, oh, I don't like having pets. Great. Go rescue people. Go rescue things. Take them to animal sanctuaries. Eventually bigger. Like, try stuff. If you don't know the details and you just have this emotion, try stuff. If you want to be respected, try putting yourself in different situations where you can be respected and find out what it's like to be not respected, and pay attention to what actually happens when you feel respected, what actually happens when you feel disrespected.
Mm-hmm.
When you want happiness, go into situations where you can be happy and find out what actually happens when you get it and when you don't. If you want that deeper emotional connection, like you've said, Leslie, ask yourself why. Why do you want to rescue animals? Why do you want to eat at this particular restaurant? Why do you want to marry this particular person? What makes this person the one for you versus all the other people that might be similar to this person, that might have similar characteristics? Why don't you want to marry one of them instead? Right? Why? If it's simply because this is the first one that said yes, then you might want a deeper why. Because what happens when somebody else says yes? Right? You might want a deeper why. So it's important to have those details, both the deeper why and the what it is specifically, the specifics of what it is you're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
Both of those are required in order to know what you want. Without one of them, you're gonna struggle. You're gonna struggle
Mm-hmm.
to know. You're gonna struggle to get it. You're gonna struggle to find what you're looking for. You need both.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny that you said that, just because yesterday I was talking to someone, I was coaching someone through a call, and we talked about money as an example. And I said, like, let's just talk about your financial goals for a moment. And because I wanted her to fully get for herself that when you have a goal financially, let's not just tie it to business, but let's tie it to your lifestyle, how you want to live your life. Because when you are looking at the money as just, oh, I want to have, as an example, if you're an online course producer or you're a coach, and you say you want to have 5K months consistently, or 10K or 20K, or whatever that looks like for you, that's great and everything. But if that's not tied to the reason why you're getting that money, what that money will do for you and how it will help you not only do that for yourself but help other people, that money has nowhere to go. I look at it as like an energy force, right? And so it's the same thing for like what you want to do with your life. If you have an idea, like I said earlier in the show, is I want $1 million, or I want to be rich. If there's no real emotional, as you were saying, emotional connection to why you want the money, and if you don't even know why you want the money, it's just because I want to be rich, that's very vague, and that won't keep you in action. But if you
Right.
have that, like you said, the details, like I this is what I want to do with my life. There's all of this thing, and I know that $1 million is going to help me do that. You've tied your details to what your desire is, and the emotion is with it because you have this emotional connection to both. You have your emotional connection to the details of what you want, and you have your emotional connection to how the money is really going to help you get there. And that's how you tie them together. But so I love that you were saying it's like that, a deeper level emotion. Having the details helps you to understand the why behind the what you want. And
Yeah.
that's going to help. So when you hear people saying to you, oh, what's the why? What's your bigger why? This is what they're talking about, because that's the why, that when you are in a funk and you don't feel like doing anything, you'll prompt yourself to say, you know what? This is my why. But if you can't get out of it, you also understand that these are my people and I can go to them for support. Like I have support just like you have support. We support each other. And when we know that we need that support because we're in a funk about this, we go to each other, we go to our tribe of people that are our inner circle, and they help us move through this block or roadblock or whatever that is, so that we can get refocused back on our why, to give us the motivation, inspiration to go and get back at what we were doing. Now, sometimes the energy isn't there, and that's okay. You can actually take a break. But for the most part, it's we definitely need to be connected to that why so deeply, and it's the
Yeah,
emotional and the emotion and the details is what's going to help you know that why, so that you can go after your what even when you don't feel like it. So,
that's
and look
correct.
at that, Andy, we're at the top of, actually we're over the hour. This has been a phenomenal conversation. Thank you. I've
Thank
enjoyed it.
you. They're great
Oh,
conversations. I love this one. This one's, and if I can feel what's coming, I think this is going to turn into another series for us. This how to get what you want and knowing what you want.
yeah.
I think this is going to be a thing for us for the next little bit. We'll see how long it
Yeah.
lasts.
I love it though. And I love the fact that we have no real, like we have a path, we have a pattern, we understand like one leads to the next, and we like to have a good energy and flow into the next series. But what I love about this, it's the growth has been exponential.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm excited for this. This is going to be
Me
so
too.
good.
Me too.
So thank you everybody for those of you who've watched, whether it's live or you're watching it back. Thank you so much for listening to Andy and I yet again talk to you about something that we felt quite passionate about, and we hope you got value. If you liked this video, please press the like, share it with your friends, and if you are not yet a subscriber, please press the subscribe button so that you don't miss out when we go live, which is every Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Andy.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for joining us. And like she said, like and subscribe, share it around. Leave us a comment if there's something you want to, if there's something that touched you in our show today, or if there's something you'd like us to discuss in the future. Just let us know. Drop us a line. You can leave us a comment, or we have contact information on our about section too. So yeah, we'd like to hear from you, and thank you for paying attention to our show today. We'll talk to you next time. Thank you very
Yeah.
much.
Yeah. Have a great Friday and a great week. We'll see you next time. Bye for now.
Bye bye.